Hey YouTube, welcome back to Axis and Allies the Garrison. This is Detroit coming to you from the bunker here in Rochelle Park, New Jersey with another episode of the YouTube Wars. Alright, so it is episode 3.3. It is Imperial Japan's turn and I am the Commander-in-Chief of the Japanese Armed Forces. Listen, Japan's been going rough lately. The British have definitely inflicted some damage on the Japanese forces in mainland China, where the British were able to destroy the British minor industrial complex in Shanghai. And also, let's not forget that during the last turn, the Russians were able to inflict another massive defeat on the Japanese when they were able to destroy the army group in Korea. The Japanese lost 8 infantry units there. You know, not to say, least to say, not for nothing, but the Japanese are hurting. And it's time to turn this ship around. It's time to go on the offense. It's time for Japan to show its opponents that it can carry the war to them. And I promise you, that's exactly what's going to happen today. The Japanese are going to go on the offense, and we're going to give it our best. Guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed this episode, and let me know how we are doing, okay? So look forward to your commentaries. Japanese forces. Japan starts this turn with a total of 42 IPCs. Japan will be purchasing 4 submarines, 4 infantry units. I still have a remainder of 6 IPCs, and I'm doing that because I'm going to roll for my tech, which I'm going to do that now. All right, so if I roll, let's see what I roll. I still have 6 remaining, and if I hit a 6, I get my technology developments right away. And I would have to pay 6. Here we go. Come on. 1. All right, so I got a 1, which means then that I do not get my research and development, and all I have to do then is pay 1 IPC to go to the next round. So that means I have 5 IPCs left, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to purchase 1 artillery. All right, and I'll be carrying over 1 IPC for round 4. So Japan's purchases are as follows. Obviously, the technological development, 4 submarines, 4 infantry, and 1 artillery. And that should be for a total of 38 IPCs. No, 37 IPCs, correction. All right. 37, no, 41 IPCs. All right, so let's go ahead with the combat movements for the Imperial Japanese Army and Navy. There will be a total of 10 battles fought or declared by the Japanese in this turn. All right, so let's first start with the British naval transport in Sea Zone 19. That naval transport will be taken out by a Japanese submarine at a movement of 2. 1 and 2. The British transport is sunk. All right, let's go for a second naval transport in Sea Zone 41. There will be 1 Japanese submarine coming from Sea Zone 36 as well, moving south 1 and 2, and it will take out the Australian, the Anzac naval transport in Sea Zone 41. Okay, and last but not least, as far as naval transports are concerned, the naval transport in Sea Zone 45 will be taken out by a carrier-based fighter coming from Sea Zone 36 as well at a movement of 1 and 2. All right, this particular fighter will have 2 movements left in its gas gauge. Okay, so this naval transport also is an auto kill and it gets taken out. All right, so obviously, Sire Blood made a very smart move here in Sea Zone 30. Let me move this guy out. He's not supposed to be there. In Sea Zone 37, Sire Blood placed his battleship as a blocker in order to stop the Imperial Japanese Navy from potentially making an amphibious landing in Sea Zone 39. So before the Japanese can go ahead and attempt to perform that amphibious landing, this battleship must be sunk. It must be taken out of the way. So let me see actually. So I'm moving in a Japanese fleet consisting of coming from Sea Zone 36 and moving into Sea Zone 37. You have a Japanese battleship escorted by a destroyer, a carrier, and a fighter as well. Okay, so all these units will be engaging the British battleship in Sea Zone 37. All right, so once this battle is resolved, okay, and assuming that it is a victory for the Japanese will then proceed with this fleet consisting of 2 transports, a battleship, a destroyer, and a cruiser, and at a movement of 3, 1, 2, and 3, they will go ahead and perform an amphibious landing as well onto India. Okay, let's not forget though that there is an Anzac fighter squadron that will be scrambling according to what G.I. Joe mentioned in his last video, where he claimed that if there is an attack, an amphibious landing, the Anzac fighter squadron will be scrambling. All right, so for this to happen, for the naval amphibious landing to take place, and these transports will be ferrying over 3 infantry coming from Kwangsi, okay, and they're on board. Once that battle is resolved, the 4 ground units are then permitted to go ahead and perform their amphibious landing. Okay, obviously the land battle is contingent upon this battle going successful or being the victory for the Japanese, and also contingent upon the Japanese battleship being sunk. All right, so there's a set of obstacles that the Japanese have to overcome before they can even attempt to perform that amphibious landing. And let's also not forget that the fact that there's a Anzac fighter that was scrambled creates a hostile sea zone in Sea Zone 39, which means then that there cannot be a naval bombardment in support of those ground units performing that amphibious landing. So that's a clarification that some people may not be aware of. All right, so let's go ahead then with the other battles. Okay, let's go to the battle for Siam, where you have 2 Japanese, not Siam, for Shan State, okay, where you have 2 Japanese infantry divisions defending, two British, defending British infantry. And here you have 2 Japanese infantry moving in from Siam, along with an additional infantry coming from Yunnan and an armored unit as well. Okay, now there's a fighter coming from one of the carriers in Sea Zone 36 at a movement of 3, 1, 2, and 3 that will support that attack as well. And this fighter, carrier-based fighter, will have 1 movement left in its gas gauge. All right, so that's a total of 3 infantry, 1 armored division, and a fighter squadron taking on the 2 British infantry divisions that are defending. In Burma, there's another attack where you have 3 British infantry coming in down south from Yunnan, along with 1 artillery division supporting that attack. All right. Now, let me just, I was forgetting to bring in the Japanese Air Force that will be supporting the attack in Calcutta as well. You have the 4 ground units here in Calcutta that are being landed through an amphibious operation. Well, I need to bring in air support for that attack to take place. All right, so I'm going to bring in the entirety of that Air Force. Okay, and all of the aircraft are moving in at 1, 2, and 3. So all of these aircraft will have 2 movements left in their gas gauges. Okay, so I have a total of 8 tactical bombers. I'm going to bring in an additional 7 fighter squadrons of the Japanese Imperial Air Force. All right, and I'm bringing in an additional 2 strategic bombers at a movement of 3. These bombers will have a total of 4 movements left in their gas gauges. That's 4. The fighters and tactical bombers will have 2 movements left in their gas gauges. So in the attack, going back to Calcutta again, the attack in Calcutta, you have a total of 3 infantry divisions, 1 artillery, 8 tactical bombers, 7 regular fighter squadrons, and 2 strategic bombers in that attack. All right. We have 2 more battles to declare up in Kiangsi. You have 1 infantry, 1 artillery, and 1 mechanized infantry moving into Kiangsi. Okay. And last but not least, the battle for Kiangsu, where you have 2 infantry and 1 artillery moving in there as well on that attack. All right. In each of these 2 territories, you have 1 British infantry division defending in each of those Chinese provinces that are currently occupied by British forces. Actually, Chinese that are currently occupied by British forces. All right, so then that's about it for all 10. Oh, and I was forgetting one last battle. The naval transport, the Japanese naval transport in Sea Zone number 6 will pick up 1 artillery, 1 infantry, and at a movement of 1, 2, and 3 will, actually 2, will land in Kwangtung. Currently, Kwangtung is unoccupied, so it's just a mirror, but just a walk-in for the Japanese. With the results of the battles that were just fought. Okay, as we know, as I just went over, Kwangtung was successfully invaded by the Japanese. All right, so let's go over to what occurred in Kiangsu and Kiangsi. In Kiangsu, the Japanese were successful. Okay, it did cost them though. The British lost 1 British infantry division. The Japanese lost 2. So this battle was a little bit costly for the Japanese. The battle for Kiangsu, the British were defeated, but not before they themselves taking out at least 1 attacking Japanese infantry as well. So Kiangsu and Kiangsi are currently under Japanese control. All right, let's go and review the naval battles. The first naval battle that we're going to review is the battle for the British battleship in Sea Zone 37. Okay, this battleship was sunk, okay, but not before it was able to return fire and damage the Japanese battleship that made up part of that task force attacking the British warship in Sea Zone 37. All right, so let's go over then. Once this zone was cleared, the rest of the Japanese fleet, consisting of one battleship, one cruiser, one destroyer, and 2 naval transports with their complements of 3 infantry and 1 artillery, were able to basically continue with their attack. And this force did engage the Anzac fighter squadron that was scrambled. Okay, the fighter squadron was destroyed, but it itself was able to return fire and was able to damage the Japanese warship, the Yamato. The Yamato is currently damaged as a result. Okay, once Sea Zone 37 had been cleared, and once Sea Zone 35 itself, 39 had been made safe, the amphibious operation was able to be performed. The British fought gallantly in Calcutta, but they were overwhelmed. Okay, the AAA did engage and was able to shoot down 1 Japanese strategic bomber. All right, but the firepower that the Japanese went in there, that they used for this particular attack that they deployed, was just too much for the defending British. Okay, total losses for the British was a total of 8 infantry divisions, 1 artillery, 2 armored units, and 3 AAAs, and the defending Anzac fighter squadron. The Japanese themselves lost 3 infantry, 2 tactical bombers, 1 strategic bomber, and 1 fighter during the battle. All right, and as far as I can tell, I believe that may be it for all the battles that were fought. Now we're going to go ahead then with the non-combat movements phase. All right, all the fighters and tactical bombers that attacked India will still have a movement of 2 left in their fuel gauges. These aircraft are all going to go back into Yunnan. So I got a total of 6 fighters, tactical fight or bombers, going back to Yunnan at a movement of 2. Same thing with my fighters. I got 6 of them left. The strategic bomber has a movement of 4, but it will choose to just land in Yunnan as well and take advantage of the fact that it has plenty of aircraft protecting that particular piece. All right, so what else? The fighter that assisted with the attack in Shan State has 1 movement left in its gas gauge. This fighter will land on the Japanese carrier in Sea Zone 37. All right. Okay, the Japanese destroyer in Sea Zone 36 will move south at a movement of 2, 1, and 2, and will land in Sea Zone 42. All right. The naval transport, cruiser, and destroyer in 36 will head east at a movement of 2, 1, 2. Will pick up the straggler, the Japanese infantry in Palau Islands, and will land in 33. The infantry is now in Caroline Islands. The remaining 2 aircraft carriers in Sea Zone 36 will also move east at a movement of 1, 2, and 3. This fleet now is in Sea Zone 33. Let's not forget that these warships can move at 3 because there is a naval base that the Japanese built on the island of Hainan. Oh, and I'm forgetting, last but not least, you have the 1 Japanese fighter that took out the Anzac naval transport in Sea Zone 45 at a movement of 2, because it has 2 movements left in its fuel gauge, goes 1 and 2, and it will land on the Japanese carrier that is currently in Sea Zone 33. All righty. Let's do some cleaning here. All right, let's go ahead then with the placements of the new units that were built and recruited by the Japanese. We have a total of 4 new infantry divisions that were recruited. These units were going to be placed on Japan, in Japan itself. the 4 submarines that were just built are also going into sea zone number 6, which is the sea zone directly adjacent to that, to Japan itself. All right, so I have to say that I'm very pleased with the overall performance of the Japanese. The Japanese were able to execute all of their objectives effectively. I have to give credit though to the British in Asia overall, who did defend well. They did inflict damage on the Japanese forces, in particularly in China, where the situation, the manpower situation for the Japanese is critically getting worse. Okay, there is less and less manpower, Japanese manpower in China. This is a situation that has to be corrected if the Japanese are to continue fighting the war against the Allies, particularly the Chinese and the Russians, who have a very strong presence in Manchuria, Korea, and northern China. All right, so let's recap the disposition of forces for the Japanese. In Sea Zone 39, you have 1 damaged Japanese battleship, 1 destroyer, 1 cruiser, 2 naval transports. In India, you have 1 artillery. In Burma, you have 2 Japanese infantry, 1 artillery. In Shan State, you have 1 Japanese armored unit. Okay, further up north, you have a total of 6 fighters. You have 6 tactical bombers and 1 strategic bomber in Yunnan. All right, Kwangtung, you have 1 artillery, 1 infantry. Kiangsi, you have 1 mechanized infantry, 1 artillery. Kiangsu, 1 artillery. Sea Zone 20, you have 1 naval transport. Sea Zone 37, you have 1 damaged battleship, 1 destroyer, 1 aircraft carrier, and its complement of 2 fighters. Sea Zone 42, you have 1 destroyer. Sea Zone 19, you have a Japanese submarine. Japan itself, you have 4 infantry divisions, 2 artillery, 3 AAAs. Sea Zone number 6, you have 4 submarines and a naval transport. Sea Zone 17 in the island of Iwo Jima, you have 1 infantry. Sea Zone 33, you have 1 cruiser, 1 destroyer, 1 naval transport, 2 aircraft carriers, and 2 fighters. In the Caroline Islands, you have 3 infantry and 1 AAA. And I believe I pretty much covered the entirety of the disposition of forces for Imperial. All right, guys, Japan. So this is the very end of episode 3.3. It's been a very interesting episode, at least for me. It's been very taxing. Those of you in my group, my allies and opponents know why. Very, very taxing for me, but I'm glad that it's all been completed. Hopefully everything's in order. If you guys see anything out of order, please just let me know. Just to recap, Japan will be collecting with its national objectives a total of 20 IPCs plus 12 IPCs from the British Treasury, the UK Pacific handed over to the Japanese Treasury. That's plus 12 for making a total of 64 IPCs, including the 1 IPC that the Japanese carried over from early this turn. So Japan should be collecting 64 IPCs. And once again, the accountants in our group will be able to confirm that for me if that's the case later on. I'm not exactly the best with numbers. Okay, so guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, let me know what you think. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and do so. Hit that like button. It does make a difference. It makes or assists. It helps with making this channel a little bit more popular. And hopefully more people will have access to the game that we all have a passion for. Guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, don't forget to bunker down and play.